Let's stick to California politics. We have Dianne Feinstein, whose own staff is saying that she is not necessarily equipped to finish and her term. You have Nancy Pelosi, who is, for better or worse, most oftentimes holding back, but the Speaker of the House. And then you have the California, that's nationally, but then here in our state Senate and our state legislature, you also have a lot of moderates and a lot of people who are bought off by, let's say, the real estate or the or the fossil fuel industry, right? To be totally frank. I know that's a lot. There's not a specific question, but maybe ask about the progressive future in this state.
Well, first of all, there's a lot of things to be disappointed by in California, right? And in fact, 2020, I think a lot of pundits said that, California is not as liberal as it is, that it's, the election results was a gut check for liberals. I saw that in the New York Times because, voters rejected affirmative action. They said no to closing corporate tax loopholes to fund public education. And they voted down very basic worker rights like healthcare and paid sick days for gig workers. So all around, did not look great for California. That being said, I think California is still moving to the left. A couple of things. One, 25 years ago in California, we had a Republican governor. We were passing really hateful anti-immigration and, of course, anti-affirmative action bills and super excessive tough on crime bills. 3 strikes and you're out. Now, every statewide elected official is a Democrat. And we have a supermajority in our state legislature, although I think we forget about things like that because we haven't passed a wealth tax. We haven't banned fracking. We can't even ban just new fracking permits. Forget the existing ones. We can't even ban new fracking permits, right? In fact, there are more fracking permits that were approved in Governor Gavin Newsom's first 2 years than, in the previous kind of the years prior to that. Very basic police reform we were unable to pass last year. And every month we're fighting for the eviction moratorium, which I know that you want to bring up later today. But, rewind a couple of months to March 2020, and Senator Sanders resoundingly won the state of California. You had mentioned I served as a California political director. We came in first place in 47 out of 53 congressional districts. And we didn't just win the more liberal Bay Area and LA counties. We won everywhere. We won San Diego, Inland Empire, Northern California, Central Valley.
You did your job, Jane. And you can go back to the campaign and be like, I won. Look.
Well, but let's talk about this, right? I mean, yes, Bloomberg spent more money than Senator Sanders, but outside of Bloomberg, we were the second best finance campaign in the state of California. And I don't think California, at least in my lifetime, has ever seen a progressive campaign well financed.
Yeah.
Right. And so all these ballot measures, I've always thought that they're really more a reflection of how much money was spent by each side than a reflection of California's political proclivities. And if you saw Prop 22, where I talked about how we lost basic labor rights for gig workers, the other side's $226 billion, million dollars, not billion, $226 million to win that
Still
race.
Crazy.
Is that a victory? Yes, it is a victory in the sense that they beat down these protections. But they spent over $200 million to do that because they knew that this was not a winning cause, right? Labor spent 30 million, NATO, on Prop 22.
Yep.
That's crazy.
And with Prop 22 in particular, what was so different about it wasn't just that we were so massively outspent, but also that it was the first campaign I've ever worked on. I have 20 years of working on campaigns where one campaign had a direct bill. They started the campaign with a voter file, basically. They started the campaign with direct access to the phones of everyone in California.
Geez.
We all had their apps on their phone, right? So they had direct access to us. That's right. That was pretty outstanding. So a couple of things I'll just say. So in our exit polls, we saw that Sanders decisive won voters 45 and under. In fact, he won more voters 45 under than Biden, Bloomberg, Buttigieg, and Klobuchar combined, right? And this is noteworthy because when Obama won California voters under 30 by 5 points in 2008, Sanders won the same exact demographic by 50 points in 2020.
Yeah.
Right. And so then you also want to look at California voters under 25, 3 out of every 4 California voter under 25 is a person of color. 50% come from immigrant and refugee backgrounds. So if we are willing to invest, it's going to take investment. It's not going to just happen. If we are willing to invest in the ground game over time, I think that we can continue moving on leftward. And again, Sandra's campaign showed when a progressive campaign with an unabashedly redistributive economic agenda went to voters on the doors with millions of dollars. We spent millions of dollars every month in California, right? We can win. We just need to be able to get our message to the voters, because frankly, mainstream media wasn't doing it. They weren't explaining what Medicare for all was, right?
No.
But when we went to the
I
doors
tried.
and we would talk to voters who would be like, "Oh, I don't support Medicare for all," and then you explain what it was, they're like, "Oh, I support that," right?
Yeah.
I mean, so well, if everyone watched this podcast.
Right.
Yes, or my special on MSNBC that aired in the dead of night on December 27th.
Can I ask?
Yes.
I just have a follow-up question. So, Jane, a couple of times you mentioned the importance of a ground game, and I think for people who don't live and breathe campaigns, that's a little bit it's sort of mysterious how that works. Can you just describe a little bit about the kind of work that you all did in places like Fresno and Bakersfield and Stockton in the Sanders campaign?
I mean, in some ways, it's laughable because it's so simple. We door knocked, which means that we had voter files, right, via PDI and VAN, and we had thousands of volunteers going out into neighborhoods that historically had never been door knocked before. So we invested in electorals with very low turnout rates, which is a big no-no on campaigns, actually. You always want to go to people that are definitely going to vote. But we had enough money to do everybody. We didn't do as much advertising and mailers as Bloomberg did. But we literally went to doors and we knocked and we registered voters. We got people to vote. And here in California, people can vote by mail and they can give you their ballot, which is pretty extraordinary. So we were also, I was walking. So everyone had to door knock. I door knocked every weekend. So no matter how senior you were, everyone is expected to door knock. So I was going out on the weekends and we all had competitions on how many ballots we could all get, each time we went out. So it's a big game of education early on when you're door knocking, because you're trying to explain who the candidate is, you're trying to explain policy and agenda. And then the second half of the campaign is just pure turnout. You're just trying to get people that you think will vote for your candidate out to vote, right? Yeah. So I don't know, was that a pretty good description, Nato?
Yeah.
You and I have been doing it for 20 years. And
I have door knocked for you, cycle. In fact. I've door knocked to elect you multiple times.
Yeah, full disclosure.
Yeah.
I did a little ad for you and Mark Leno in 2018. That was fun. I do want to refocus on. Yeah, so good, so close. I do want to refocus on California politics. We don't have that much time, but we have a. Sorry, just to backtrack, I feel like what you're saying is that the grassroots up is how we're going to get better representation than Feinstein and Pelosi. That it's going to take more door knocking. I mean, more grassroots than we've seen, I think. And there's
it sounds like what you're saying is that you can't win elections without talking to the voters.
Sucks.
It seems pretty complicated.
Well, you technically could win elections without talking to voters, but they're usually not our candidates, unfortunately, right?
Bloomberg did it.
But yeah.
I mean, he didn't win, but I wanted to go to the California politics.
Airwaves.
Oh, yes, he did. Indeed. We have that
I just
fun.
want to mention one more thing.
Yeah.
There was about 40 candidates that ran for city council, transit board, rent boards around the state of California that I tracked from the Bernie campaign that had come out for Senator Sanders in March. And I actually went around the state and door knocked for a lot of them. They were all outspent, but they all ran in tinier races where, again, they were able to door knock every door. Because when you have a small geography, a campaign, even that has less money, you can door knock every door, right? And out of those 40 candidates, 30 of them won. And out of the 30 candidates, 30 were women of color. And every single one of the 30 was LGBT, a woman, or a person of color. And they all ran on the same campaign platform as Senator Sanders. So Medicare for all, Green New Deal, wealth tax, etc. I thought that was, again, very promising. When you can get to the doors, when you talk to people in person, our candidates do win.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the Bitchuation Room podcast live stream. And while you're here, why don't you just subscribe to this channel? I promise it'll be good.